Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. My name's Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada, and you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. Today I wanted to show you how I made the Pop and Flap card that I shared as part of the Stamping with Friends blog hop. Now I've used the Hello Ladybug bundle for this and I just absolutely love it in red and black and these little cute little ladybugs. So I thought I would show you how to make this fancy fold. I've seen it all over social media, and so I decided I needed to figure this out. I can't remember the name of the demonstrator, I have to say, where I actually watched her video and put this card together. So it's a little bit tricky, but if you just take your time and go through it, and hopefully this video will help you. The blog post that will be linked to this video will give you all of the measurements, but it's really kind of, and I probably will write the written instructions will be there, but I think that you'll need to watch this video along with the written instructions. So let's go, and hopefully you'll be able to put one of these cards together. Now, I don't have a card put together. We're going to finish it. I've got the skeleton of a card that I made in some, it's cardstock, designer series paper from By the Bay. So we're going to actually put this card together, but I'm going to show you the skeleton and then we can work on the card together. All right, here we go. So this is the popping flap card. Now it looks kind of just like a card. It opens like that. And then what's really cool about this is that this tab pulls out and pops up and then tucks back in. Now my sample has a bit of a flaw in it, and I'll show you how what not to do to get the flaw, because I have a hard time getting this piece back in, but I figured out how to resolve that. So it's just kind of a fun, and the theme of the blog post or the blog hop that I'm in is a pop-up card, and I thought this kind of qualified for that. All right, so we're going to use the Hello Ladybug. It's just so adorable, and I thought it would be really cute as a pop-up card. So it's a punch bundle. It's in the annual catalog. And of course, my card has to be black and red because it just goes so well. Now, the first thing you're going to do, just grab my paper trimmer, is, as I said, all of the measurements, in case you missed this, are going to be on the blog, and the link to the blog is underneath this video. So this is your card base, your main card base. It's 4 1/4 by 11, and we're going to score it at 5 1/2. I'm going to need my trimmer again, but we'll get the card base. So as always, this is the side I scored on. I always say to fold into the mountain or the raised line, which is this one. So we'll fold and make our card base, and grab your bone folder and just give it a really good crease. You're going to need your bone folder. Okay, so then I'm going to kind of put the card base together. You need a piece of basic white cardstock. So this is cut 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I've got a piece of, this is the perfectly penciled designer series paper, which I'm using on my card. I've cut this 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/4. I always may save my little bits of designer series paper to put on the inside of the card. So we're just going to put this in, and if I have to trim it, I will. Sometimes might be just a touch long. Just a touch. So for those of you who don't follow me, I have broken my wrist. That's the splint. So hopefully it'll heal soon, or they're going to have to do something about it. All right, so there we go. So that's for the inside of the card. Got that done. That's kind of the easy part. And we can set, actually, we can do a little bit more. So I've got a piece of designer series paper that is cut 4 inches by 5 1/4, I believe. Just want to make sure that that's the case. Yeah, okay. I'm going to put a layer of real red because it just seems. So this is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and my real red is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And so just going to have a peekaboo of color. And then this can go on the front of the card base. And then we can start working on the pop-up and the mechanism. So this is just a little sliver of color behind my designer series paper. Like that. And then this can go on the front. Now you're going to need your paper trimmer for sure, your bone folder, paper snips or your trimmer you can use, and then you're going to need, oh, this is somehow just, there we go. All right, just a bit of color. And tear and tape adhesive works really well for this. Okay, so we've got just a little peekaboo of the red showing. Now we can set this aside and we'll start working on the mechanism. So the first piece you need is a piece, I'm using basic black, and you need this. This is measuring 4 3/4 by 7. So we're going to score it at 3 1/4 along the 7-inch side. And then we're going to score it at 1/2 inch on each of the 3 or 4 3/4 inch sides. So this is kind of the main housing, or the card, the piece that houses your pop-up. Okay, so we've got it scored at 1/2 inch on either side and 3 1/4 in the middle. Now what we're going to do, if you see my mechanism, it's this piece here, not this. So it's got a piece that is longer, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually cut part of this flap off. So it's on the long side that we want to cut. So you can use your paper snips or you can use your trimmer. So I'm going to go from the score line up to the end on the long side. And that's at 1/2 inch. We're cutting that. And then from the bottom up to that piece. Okay, there we go. So if you can use your paper snips if you want. So I'm just going to take and cut like that just to the score line. Like that. And like that. So now your kind of housing for your pop-up, it looks like that. Turn it that way. What we're going to do is just take a notch out of this 1/2 inch flap on the side next to the score line only. Do not cut at this end, because that was my mistake on my sample. And that's the reason it won't I have a hard time getting the pop-up card back in its slot, is because I cut notches here and it won't slide in easily. So only notches out of the side next to the score line. Okay, so now we're going to take and score this, or fold this and burnish this on the middle score line, and then fold in on those two flaps like that. And while I have this, you're going to use tear and tape. So with these two flaps facing outwards, these fold in. So you're going to put tear and tape on the outside. So they're going to fold in and attach to the card base like that. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. So we've got that's kind of the housing mechanism for our flap or our pop-up. Okay, we've got that. Now, the next piece that we need, finding it. Okay, so I've got a piece here. Again, I'm using basic black. This is the actual pop-up card, and it's 3 1/4 by 6, and it's scored at 3 1/2. So a little bit longer on one side than the other. So this is going to be the card that folds. So I'm going to need that in a minute. So we're going to fold this on the score line and burnish. So again, this is the card that pulls out of your front piece like that. Okay, so that's the little card. And then the last piece that I need to do some scoring on is, this is the mechanism that will help pull that card base out, that pop-up card base out. So this is cut 2 1/8 by 2 1/8, and there's a bit of scoring on this one. So you're going to score this one at 1/2 inch. I guess I should have gone this way, 1/2 inch, and then sorry, 1/2 inch on both sides. Let's get it done. 1/2 inch on both sides. That's the easiest thing to do. And then you're going to score at 1/8 inch in between. So every 1/8 inch between the two 1/2 inch score lines. So it takes a little bit. Use your trimmer. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. This is just going to help it kind of move as you pull the card in and out. So you could do it maybe a little bit bigger than this, but it just kind of helps the card, or yeah, helps. This curls and helps the card pull in and out. Okay, there. One more. So again, you're scoring this at roughly every 1/8 inch, and I'm not sure you can see that. There you go. Between the two 1/2 inch score lines. So there's 1/2 inch on both sides, and then 1/8 inch, a whole bunch, and it's gone blurry. There we go. A whole bunch of 1/8 inch score lines between. All right, that's everything I need for now. I think that's everything. Okay, so let's bring my sample back in, because I always have to use this to look at. So the first thing we're going to do is, if I fold this, on our piece that is this is the card that pulls out and pops up. We're going to have it facing, so with the fold to your right-hand side, we're going to take, and I have the mountain or the raised lines facing up. We're going to adhere this using tear and tape to that edge. I'll show you in just a sec if I get that on. Okay, so we're going to take, come off. There we go. All right, so we're going to take and adhere this roughly in the middle. Doesn't have to be perfect. Right up against that edge. Okay, so that makes it look like this one. So sorry, it's kind of hard to see. Okay, so now it's going to look like this one. So now if I bring in my other piece, so this is the mechanism that holds this together. I've got my tape on the underside. So I'm going to take and slide this with both of the larger pieces to the back, and I'm going to slide it up to that 1/2 inch score line, roughly. And I wouldn't butt it right up against it, and make it halfway between. We're just going to fold that over, and we're going to put tear and tape on this side of the mechanism. Okay, so again, this is, so tear and tape on the actual kind of case, the housing for this pop-up card to the back. And this is the smaller of the sides. So this side is a bit larger than the other. So if I remember what this was scored at 3 1/4, and it was 6 1/4. So one is 3 inches, I think. Where's my ruler? Here. So this was 7 inches, sorry. So it's scored at 3 3/4. I've got the wrong measurement here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go, 3 1/4. So we're gonna adhere this to the 3 1/4 inch. So again, fold this into its card with the mechanism on top, the tear and tape on the underneath side, and kind of just push it in. Just leave a little bit of a gap. Doesn't matter if it's exactly halfway between, but that's really what you want. And then you can take and pull your tear and tape backing off. Okay, so we'll get that in there. Get it kind of halfway. That's about right. And then just burnish that. There we go. Okay, so now our card looks like this. So if I fold this out, that's what it looks like. And then this piece, when it goes in, this mechanism, so it's hard to see on the black. So this mechanism that where I've got the 1/8 inch score lines will kind of act as a bit of a coil. It curls. So this piece just pushes back in like that. So now it's pushed back in and folded on that other 1/2 inch side. So this is the mechanism that will allow you to pull this out, your pop-up card out. All right, so then we're going to fold this over, and then these two pieces fold over like this. And I would take and give it a good burnish because it is a little thick with your bone folder. Okay, so we've got, this is the piece that now fits. If I can bring my card base in. There we go. Got it going the right way. So this folds over your pullout. So my pullout will, if I get it, will pull out like this. So your two flaps have the tear and tape adhesive underneath, and that's going to go onto the card like this. Now, I'm going to use a trick that I learned from my friend Diane. So when you've got tear and tape and you want to get your piece positioned, don't pull the whole backing off of the tear and tape. So I'm just going to pull, say, an inch off, and I'm going to do one from one end and one from another, and just fold it down. So I'm not pulling it off all the way. I'm just pulling it off partly. And what that's going to allow me to do, so we aren't gluing this down. We're just kind of holding it in place. And we're going to position this where we want it. And it can go roughly halfway between. Okay, there we go. So now I can press down. And you can then take and get straight, pull off my backing. And I use a bone folder just to press that down. And we'll do the same on this one. Pull that backing. And now press down. All right, so we now have our mechanism. Now, one thing I should have done, and when you do your card, and I do this every time I make this, is I forget to decorate this pop-up card. And the measurements I'm going to give you for the designer series paper to do that are actually for that fit this card before it's actually, you put the pull-out mechanism on it. Because now that I've got the pull-out mechanism, this front piece is a little bit smaller. So I make this mistake every time, but that's okay. You'll know not to do this. So I cut, what have I got? I've got two pieces of designer series paper that are 2.5 by 3, and one piece that is 3 by 3.25. And then I've got a piece of basic white that is 3 by 3.25, and that's going to fit on here. Now I'm going to have to trim. You can see this is a little bit too big because I went ahead and I didn't put this designer series paper before I put on my pull-out mechanism. So I'm just going to trim this. I think I need to trim. Maybe let's try this much and see if I can. So if you do your decoration with your designer series paper before you adhere it, there we go, that's probably good. You won't have to do that trimming. Okay, so I've got a piece of designer series paper for this pull-out flap. And then this one, and you don't have to use the same, you can do a different pattern on these if you want, but I kind of like this polka dot. It kind of feels like it's, so this fits here. And I think I'm going to use those flowers just to break it up a little bit. So you can turn it over. You could use a completely different piece of designer series paper. So this, and you could also put this on, put basic white here. I'm going to put my basic white on the other side here. And I've got a little piece of this stripe or polka dot designer series paper. I think it's 1/2 inch or something, maybe even just 1/4 inch, but I'm just using it to decorate. So I'm just going to put that on the back like that, just up against the edge. And then where's my real red? I was going to stamp some of the little cute flowers on this piece in real red. So just here, this is going to be on the back of my, where I can write a note. So this goes on the back like that. Again, if you want to put this on the front side of this and then use the back side, put it here, that works too. Now I need to push this back in And I'm going to put this piece that I trimmed on the pop-up. Again, your piece will be a little bit bigger than mine was, but I've trimmed mine to fit. Okay, there we go. So this now fits in like this. We'll decorate this. What we need is, you don't have to, but what I've done is I have punched a piece. This is out of Real Red, and this is the dual scallop. So this is the scallop oval. Maybe it's, yeah, dual ovals. Now I'm going to take and cut this in half, roughly. So it's about 2 1/8 inch. So I'm going to cut it just over 1 inch half, and I probably will end up trimming this a little bit. This is going to be my pull tab. So if I put these two, line these two together, yeah, and then you can trim it and make it both even if you want. Mine's actually not too bad. I've got, this is the trio punch, and if I take these, I don't know if I can get it in there. I hope I can. I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should have done, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut another one of those scallop ovals out and do this cutting before I cut it in half, because otherwise I can't actually get it in there and hang on to it. So I'm using the ribbon end, or the ribbon hole end. So I'm just going to kind of push this in, and hopefully it's straight, because you need to go up, straight up and down. Let's hold this with that hand. So I've got one, and then hopefully this will be pretty straight when I put it in. There we go, not too bad. So this is going to be for the ribbon pull. And again, I'm going to cut this at just over 1 inch, so that it's roughly even. There we go. And we will trim. We'll get our ribbon holes lined up. Oh, not too bad. And then I can take, oh, I didn't do very well on that one to get it even, but now I can just trim these to make them be the same size. Now I'm going to take and just adhere these two pieces together. I'm just doing the bottom, not where the ribbon will go through. Actually, I don't want to do that. I want to actually adhere it to your, so this is going to be the pull, and it's going on this larger size. So adhere it down, attached to the front and back of your pull-out card. There we go. And now you can kind of match that up and get it straight, and now you'll have a spot to put your ribbon through. Just hold that until it adheres and sticks. So now I've got a tab that I can put ribbon through in just a minute. Let's do the front of this card. So I've got, again, a piece of designer series paper that will fit on the front of this card, and I believe this is 3 inches by 3 1/2. And then I cut a piece of Real Red that is 3 1/8 by 3 3/8. So we're going to adhere this down. I haven't even got to the fun part of this card where I get to make the little ladybug. There we go. Or as my grandmother used to call them, a ladybird. All right, so this is the front. Isn't this fun? I love the red and black together. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now let's make a ladybug. The punch is amazing, so I don't even have to do much stamping with this. I am going to punch the body out of black. So I'm just going to take this and put in. Oopsie, let's get it all the way in. There we go. So I've got the body, and then I'm going to take some real red and put in here and do the wings. Sorry, where am I going here? That's good to get it in the right hand side. I'm trying to, there we go. Get it going the right way, so that I can punch with my one hand. Okay, so you can stamp. So the stamp actually has this that you can stamp, but I love to just use the cardstock and the punch. It just makes it so easy. So a little bit of glue and just adhere that on. If you want, you can stamp the spots on the ladybug, but I like to use these matte black dots for the spots. So whatever you'd like to do, stamp or use the dots. So I'm going to use, let's see, they've got 4 dots on each, so we'll use kind of the same. And there are 2 different sizes, so I'm going to kind of switch up the sizes. It just looks so real with these, once it gets its spots on. There we go. Isn't that cute? Oh my gosh, so adorable. All right, I'm just going to pop that up with some dimensionals. Now I've got the black dimensionals. I like to use when I've got dark cardstock, so you won't see these. So just maybe 3. Like that. You could put more than one ladybug on here if you wanted to. And then somewhere I've got a piece of basic white, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says, "You can bug me anytime." And I'm just stamping that. Now, if you follow me, you know that I tend to like to fussy cut my sentiments. So you can fussy cut, you can use a die, you can use a punch. But I seem to always just use paper snips for my sentiments. Not always, but a lot. And I'm just going to trim this so it's just kind of narrow. Now, when I've got a little thin piece, I'm going to use my mini dimensionals for this because it's pretty thin. I won't, yeah, it's too thin for the regular size. I don't like my sentiment to sag in the middle, so I tend to put a few sentiments. And if this was wider, I'd stagger the sentiments so that the middle, it doesn't kind of wobble. I find that sometimes it'll wobble. All right. So I'm going to put this on. And you know what? Oops. Sticking to me. Okay, put that there. I think I want something red on here. I'm looking for my, these are all my embellishments. Here we are. There we go. We've got the red rhinestones. So let's put some of those on here as well, just because I think it'll just pop it up a little bit, even though I've got the black ones. Here's the putty. Yeah, I think just these will just kind of add a little bit of pop to it. And then the last thing we want to do is, I'm using, this is the gingham, black and white gingham. So you don't need very much of this, maybe 4 or 5 inches. So we'll just cut a piece. There we go. That didn't cut very well. Let's use my ribbon scissors. If your scissors kind of get so they don't cut your little paper snips, they are very sharp when you get them. I find it's often because you've got glue. If you're like me, you've got glue. And so just take them and clean them with a little bit of alcohol. Or if you've got something like Goo Gone or Undo, Goo Gone works really well. It's an adhesive remover. So I'm just going to take this and hopefully I can get this. Let's see if I can get this. I cut this a little bit. There we go. Okay. You don't need very much of a pull. There we go. Okay, so now we've got this, and if you wanted to put something here, you absolutely could. But there you go, there's your pop-up, and I could actually, maybe I will put another ladybug on the inside, just so there's a bit of a surprise. I think that's what I'll do. But for now, that's my card. I hope you like it. If you have any questions, as you're watching this video or as you go to try and recreate this card, just leave a comment underneath the video, or if you find your way over to my blog, leave a comment on my blog and I'm happy to answer your questions, just in case I wasn't very clear in the video. It isn't really hard to do, and once you've done one, you'll figure it out. And I actually keep one little sample, so some of those kind of pieces I actually keep around just to remind me of how it goes together, because sometimes I found myself getting mixed up about what's the front and what's the back and which way it goes. All right, so hopefully you like the video, and if you do, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, so you get notified when I do upcoming videos. And if you find your way over to my blog, you can subscribe to my newsletter. Thanks everybody for joining me. Happy stamping. Bye.